High school sports stories take 12.
OUSD superintendent is proposing a cut of $21.75 million to the district. Inside the meeting, we got to see a breakdown of the numbers. These are the 5 categories that money is coming from. But what does that exactly include?
So, the Oakland Unified School District has been facing some tough times lately, with the news breaking that a lot of schools are going to be closing down around Oakland, and that's including elementary schools, middle schools, and maybe even some high schools. We have students and teachers who are lining up to protest across the city, and maybe even to the Capitol itself. Now, along with these budget cuts that cause these schools to close, a lot of schools who are remaining open are going to be facing a lot of other challenges. And those challenges aren't in the classroom, but on the field. The Oakland Unified School District has cut $500,000 from the district sports programs, which means a lot of these high schools are going to be losing sports teams. And that means over 500 students are no longer going to be able to play sports in their high school.
Several other sports remain in jeopardy, including wrestling, swimming, boys golf, boys tennis, boys volleyball, and girls badminton.
A lot of these schools will no longer have these programs. And I know you're thinking to yourself, well, as long as the major programs don't get cut, like soccer, football, baseball, and basketball, then I think we'll be okay. But that doesn't just stop there. A lot of these programs who are major sports are also going to be facing these cutbacks. It might be minimal at first, but I really feel like it'll be detrimental to their programs going forward. So with these budget cuts occurring, this is what teams could be losing. For starters, a lot of teams could be losing their coaches entirely. So you're cutting $500,000 out of school budgets. That could pay for coaches. A lot of these coaches that these school teams have are employed by the schools, and if the schools no longer have that money to keep them around, they're going to leave, unfortunately. And if that's the case, you're going to have programs where that are running less efficiently that they could be. You're not going to have the best coaches that you could afford anymore. You're going to have to depend a lot on volunteers. Volunteers are a big part of society, and I appreciate everything they do because they donate their time to causes that, honestly, a lot of people wouldn't give a second chance to. Unfortunately, when it comes to sports teams, a lot of these schools decide to hire the best of the best for a reason. They want wins, they want results, they want kids to go to college, and these coaches a lot of times can do that for them. If you can't afford to keep these coaches around, what's the reason for them to stay? You could also be facing losing equipment. Now, in sports, I don't know about you guys, but you need equipment. You need fields, you need goals, you need bats, you need balls, you need all that stuff to play sports. And if you have less funding to buy those items, you're going to be relying on a lot of equipment that's outdated and no longer will be allowed to be used. For example, football equipment is supposed to be bought every single year. A lot of these training pads that people use, helmets, and a lot of other equipment, it's supposed to be changed out on a yearly basis. And that's not just because they want you to get the newest product, but it's for safety reasons. Now, when I was in high school, I also faced budget cuts. When I was playing football, I remember I had to pay $150 out of my own pocket just to buy a football helmet that at the end of the day, I couldn't keep. I also bought jerseys and pants for football, and unfortunately, I couldn't keep those either. The only thing I got out of those $150 that I gave were a pair of Nike Elite socks. That's all I got out of it. And I know it's a more big picture thing. A lot of these helmets and uniforms will be passed down to the kids next year and the year after that, so I'm not too upset at that. But the simple fact that schools no longer have money to be able to pay for these small little things where $150 buys you a helmet and uniform, that's unfortunate. And I know it adds up per kid that you're using, but unfortunately that's the sacrifice we take for having these programs around. Now, another scenario is when I was playing soccer in high school, our schools cut the funding for that, so we no longer had jerseys. So I took it upon myself with other players to raise money for these jerseys. And long story short, I had the money in hand to go buy these jerseys, and before the end of the school day, I got jumped for that money. Unfortunately, yeah, I did get jumped for some money that wasn't mine because I was trying to buy some uniforms for the soccer team. When the principal found out, he took it in a very wrong manner. He actually ended up getting pretty upset at me for some reason because he said, and I'm paraphrasing now because it was a while ago, that I shouldn't have that much money around. It's a danger to me and it's a danger to people around me. But this situation wouldn't have happened if the school didn't make these small budget cuts in order to get rid of these uniforms. So I had to take it into my own hands to get the uniforms for the school so that way we can play a season that year. Now, if we look at the big picture, a lot of these 500 students that are no longer going to be able to play sports, that's a big hit for them. First off, because a lot of these kids depend on sports like this to get athletic scholarships in order to go to college. A lot of kids can't afford to go to college. Some kids could barely afford to stay in high school. They can't afford to buy new books and school supplies every single year, and unfortunately, sports is a good solace for them. Like I said before, schools outside of sports are very, very expensive. Like I said, the link will be in the description if you guys want to check out my latest video that shows you guys how much it really costs to play sports outside of school. And for the most part, a lot of these teams that kids are playing in high schools and middle schools, they're free. You can sign up for free and go play. Nobody has to charge you a single dime. And sometimes that's the only recreational sport that kids get. So imagine if you're taking away a sport from a kid who depended on that sport to stay out of trouble and depended on them to to stay on track in school. That kid who just lost a sport will no longer have a reason to keep his grades up, because in order to play school and sports, you have to have good grades. And if the only reason these kids had good grades was in order to play sports, then imagine you take the sports teams away. What's the point of having good grades if I can't play anymore? And yeah, people can say, oh, you can use the good grades to graduate. In a lot of cases, kids don't care about graduating. They care about getting out into the real world and getting some money in their lives. And sports is a good way to do that. But unfortunately, because you're taking it away, there's nothing they can do about it. They're forced to look at other options and other scenarios, and unfortunately, they might not be the right ones all the time. I'm not one to kick someone while they're down. I know the district is going through a tough time with a lot of financial issues that are going on with the city. We just lost the Raiders, we're losing the Warriors, we're trying to build a new stadium for the A's, and a lot of money is fluctuating through in and out of the city, and we're losing consistent revenue when it comes with the Raiders. The Raiders were paying $44 million a year to play at the Coliseum. That's $44 million that can be used in anything in the city, and I'm pretty sure a portion of that money was going to fund school sports teams. And I understand it's tough times for a lot of these kids and a lot of these schools, but unfortunately, there's nothing we could do at the moment. And the part where the district dropped the ball was they didn't give a single notice to a lot of these kids and parents who play these sports. The second week of school, kids are finding out that sports teams are getting cut with no way to prepare themselves. A lot of these kids were willing to raise money to keep these sports teams alive for themselves, but because the district gave no warning, a lot of these kids have nothing to do now. I'm hoping that in the future the city finds a way to be able to fund these sports teams again, but I know for a fact that it's very, very hard to start up a program once it's not existent anymore. You're not going to have people to back up these programs anymore. They're going to be wanting them to come back once they're gone. So unfortunately, I hope the district can find a way to get some money back, keep some schools open, keep these programs alive, and let these kids play. I am a big believer that sports build character, and a lot of these kids need character. So thank you guys again for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. We are almost at 50 subscribers. Let's get that subscribe button going. Let's get those subscribers up. Let's not forget to comment and like and subscribe. So let's get it going. Let's hit that 50 subscriber mark. I will have another video out shortly after this, so stay tuned and thank you very much.